What's going on, you bunch of heathens? Today, we are checking out the history behind Sabaton's Primo Victoria. As is standard with my Sabaton reactions, I listen to the song, which is in the playlist, and then I proceed to learn about the history. It used to be the other way around, but ever since I started Sabaton History, where they would put the songs in the videos themselves, I wanted to listen to the song, get a blind reaction to the song. So, here we are. Today, it's about the D-Day landings, which is Primo Victoria. Good song. Not the best video, just due to the music mixing, but either way, I can't wait to check it out. As always, everything's linked below. Go and check them out. They're always fun to watch just on their own. And without further ado, let's jump in.
At least among the Western Allies, it is the most often told story of the Second World War.
D-Day,
It's also the beginning of the Sabaton sound. Primo Victoria.
Through the gates of hell, as we make our way to heaven through the Nazi lines.
That is actually one thing I don't think I really touched upon in the actual music reaction. The fact that it starts off with him singing with no music backing was such a really good way to start. I think they said that this is the first song on their on the album, which is a hell of a way to start, and I really enjoy that. And I don't think I ever touched upon that in the actual song.
June 6, 1944, a few minutes after midnight, a couple of British
he's actually
gliders
outside.
silently touched down in Normandy near the Caen Canal. Moments later, all hell breaks loose. Shouting, the British commandos race towards the bridge, overwhelming the confused defenders with hand grenades and submachine guns. In minutes, Benouville Bridge, codenamed Pegasus, has been taken. The first phase of Operation Neptune has begun. Neptune, as part of Operation Overlord, was designed to storm the German defenses on...
I'm sorry. Operations have such cool names. Operation Overlord, Neptune, or in more recent time, Enduring Freedom, Anaconda. Like, they have some cool-ass fucking names for operations.
The French coast, and establish a beachhead to strike further into Normandy. A massive amphibious landing was to be undertaken to open a new front in the war against Nazi Germany and its allies. At 5 different places, the Allied forces would land. Germany and its...
What a shit place to bring a fucking tank on. Like, look at this. You go in, and too steep for you to do anything there. You have to go around.
Allies. At 5 different places,
Damn.
the Allied forces would land. Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword.
Utah and Omaha are the 2 main ones that you hear about. I don't really know any... Utah and Omaha are the 2 that I know about the most, because that's what everyone focuses on. I don't know anything really about Gold, Juno, or Sword.
Thing is,
let me know if there's any videos that actually dive more into the other beach landings.
The actual landing at the shore was only to take place after a lot of other chess pieces had been moved. It was vital to the success of the operation that paratroopers and commandos would go in first, soften up the German defenses in the rear, and disrupt their communications.
Makes
Brigadier
sense.
James Hill had told his men before, "Gentlemen, in spite of your excellent training and orders, do not be daunted if chaos reigns. It undoubtedly will." Far on the western side, the 1st American paratroops of the 82nd and 101st landed. They were to protect the gap between Utah and Omaha beaches, and, like the British further east, would destroy as many of the German coastal batteries and anti-aircraft guns as possible. The Germans were aware that an invasion was coming. The concentration of force around the British Isles was obvious, but they did not know the exact date nor the location. Field Marshal...
No. Fat Electrician actually did a pretty good video on it. Where... what was his name? It was a Spaniard, I want to say, a Spanish farmer, because they fucked with his chickens or whatnot, where he was actually pretty instrumental in getting the Germans to concentrate their forces on the wrong area for the landing, I believe.
Erwin Rommel, in charge of the German defenses at the Atlantic Wall, had made repeated visits to Normandy. Now, if the invasion was to begin here, the Allies would find not one, but several obvious landing zones. So Rommel worked the construction companies to improve the local defenses. He ordered the flooding of fields, the tightening of minefields, and the creation of anti-airborne poles.
Yep, the flooded fields actually led to quite a few paratrooper deaths, if I'm not mistaken. Like, they actually led to quite a few.
But whatever he did, it seemed like nothing could ever be enough. The length of the Atlantic Wall was just too large, and the Germans lacked both the resources and the manpower to create a solid wall of fortresses. Now, on the night of June 6th...
I mean, honestly, thinking about it, they should have known there was nothing they could do. I mean, look at, what was it? The Maginot Line that France did, that Germany already had, you know, what's the word? Experience with. Like, no, as much as you would want to, there's no such, like, you can't do
the German
everything.
Soldiers awoke to flak fire and explosions. Local commanders hung on the telephones trying to get any sort of orders or information about what the hell was going on. Was this the invasion? Was it a raid? Was it just another bombing run? Fate had it.
Ghost Division patch?
Rommel was far away in Germany just then. And at the same time, most of the Wehrmacht High Command was either in Paris or basically anywhere except where the fighting was actually happening. Many lower-ranking commanders lost their heads, sending their local reserves in the hopes of stopping the invasion as it began. And at first, German resistance was decidedly lackluster. Many sites were guarded by men from Eastern Europe, often Poles, Czechs, or from the Soviet Union, who were pressed into service with the Wehrmacht. They had neither the training nor the...
What was it? Was it Saving Private Ryan, I want to say? Where they actually do implement that little tidbit of conscripts of... It was two Czechs yelling out that they didn't want to be there or something along those lines. But they were forced to be there.
To stand up to the aggressive attackers. This allowed the first waves of paratroopers, the Pathfinders, to place radio beacons and Hall of Fame lights to mark the landing zones for the real attack.
Yeah. Fucking heroes.
Over 13,000
Such a
Allied
small
paratroopers
fucking...
dropped from their transport planes. In small groups they fought, ambushing the Germans.
Such a small survival rate, I believe.
Their barracks and patrols throughout the night. It was absolute chaos. Firefights were reported seemingly everywhere, and German officers had a hard time getting any assessment of the situation. In other words, the paratroopers were doing their job.
Hell yeah.
The second phase could begin.
Still really enjoy that line.
At H hour,
it's a really good line. I like.
A huge swarm of American and British bombers made its way to Normandy. Since April, they had intensified their efforts to pound the German positions into non-existence. But Allied High Command was not taking any chances. Once more, they would try to level anything the Germans...
Holy shit, was that Putin? Get it? He kind of... I mean, looking at him, he doesn't really look like him. Kinda does? I don't know.
Not taking any chances. Once more, they would try to level anything the Germans had put in front of the landing zones, preferably the anti-aircraft casemates and high-caliber naval guns. RAF Bomber Command dispatched Halifax and Lancaster heavy bombers. The U.S. Air Force sent out Flying Fortresses and Liberators at the forefront. Mosquito bombers, Thunderbolts,
Ooh, the
Marauders,
Mosquito.
rocket-firing Typhoons, pretty much anything that had a cool name was to be thrown against the German Atlantic
Hell yeah,
Wall.
brother.
All in all, over 11,500 Allied aircraft
damn.
would attack and wreck the German positions on the French coast this morning. The Luftwaffe might as well have not existed at this point, because there was no way of even making a dent into that kind of force.
This part, I really like how he like
Then the
emphasizes
final
each
third
word
phase
in that
began,
one.
as the guns of the navies opened up. Whatever the bombers had missed now took direct fire from 900 warships of the Royal Navy and 200 warships from the U.S. Atlantic Fleet. Under cover of their
lot less
shelling,
from the US than I
landing
thought.
crafts made their way slowly through the strong waves. Over 4,000 boats had been brought along to carry troops, tanks,
Holy
and war material into the designated landing zones. Even duplex-drive Sherman tanks and waterproof Churchill tanks were to be landed. At around 6 a.m., the first thousands of American...
Oh my god, that is a hell of a fucking photo. God damn. Have you guys seen the prototypes that they fucking ran with for D-Day? For like amphibious tanks? Where it's just a big ass, basically an inflatable raft wrapped around a fucking Sherman. And it was basically, yeah, drive off, you'll get there eventually. Some insane shit.
British and Canadian troops were about to close in on the beaches. The coast in front of them was burning, and clad in smoke and morning mist. The Pathfinders had enjoyed the element of surprise. But this element was quickly fading. The Germans were now on full alert and began arming and organizing themselves.
They set up defense
perimeters at the beaches, manning the guns in the bunkers and resistance nets. Nearly all of their large artillery guns had been destroyed in the bombardment, as it turned out. Machine gun nests, smaller bunkers, the control centers for the Goliaths, everything had gone up in flames. What the Germans were left with were little groups of men with small arms and mortars. Now, Hollywood and video games often portray the defenders as a large army of elite Nazi veterans, but in reality, this was the Wehrmacht of 1944. Much of the Normandy defenses were orchestrated by experienced NCOs, sure, but the men under their control were mostly teenagers or men over 40. Many of them could not have served in the army before because of health issues, but the German army had been scraping the bottom of the barrel. However, even a frightened recruit can pull the
he looks so young. Holy shit.
Trigger of an MG-42 machine gun.
It's different seeing it to actually hearing it to seeing it is a completely different animal.
With the Defender, they prepared to rain down 1,400 rounds a minute over the beaches. Utah Beach was, like most other landing zones, a long strip of sand, but intercrossed by dunes that provided a modest amount of cover. As the landing crafts opened their ramps, the men burst out. Immediately, machine gun and small arms fire smashed into their ranks. Despite the heavy damage they'd taken, many of the German casemates were still standing, and the German soldiers fired from their gun slits into the oncoming landing craft. Luckily for the Americans, the Sherman tanks had arrived as well, providing cover as combat engineers raced across the dunes, trying to blast their way through the barbed wire. To the east at Omaha, the Americans were not quite as lucky. There was no trace of the supporting tanks. In fact, 30 of 32 had sunk into the sea.
Damn, that many?
And while most of the German defenses at Utah had been obliterated, quite a number of their resistance nests here were still functional. Mortar shells tore into the landing craft, killing a third of the first company outright. Then at 6:31, the first assault ramps went down. As the Americans struggled to get out, the German machine guns tore into the packed groups of men, killing dozens in mere seconds. Bodies piled up in the landing craft, and many panicked, jumping into the water, only to be dragged down by their kit. Still, the soldiers pressed on, out of the boats and onto the beach. The first waves were completely exposed to the German machine guns as the men ran over the sand.
It's so fucking flat.
The only option was to make a mad dash towards the end of the beach, despite their instincts telling them to lay down behind the smallest amount of cover. The NCOs spurred their men on as mortar shells screeched past them. All around them, men were shot or blown apart.
That's grim as shit.
More and more American soldiers were arriving. There were simply too many for the overheating MG-42s to take on. Eventually, small groups of men made it to the beach wall, firing back at the Germans, while the engineers blew holes into the barbed wire with Bangalore torpedoes.
I was going to say, Bangalore.
The British forces at Gold and the Canadians landing at Juneau fared better, as tanks and infantry arrived pretty much simultaneously. Facing only light opposition, they quickly pushed onward and beyond the beaches, under the cover of the Churchill tanks, which were armed with bunker-busting mortars or flamethrowers. They systematically cleared enemy strong points.
or whatever?
Mines and machine guns were still deadly, but not in enough numbers to stop them. At Sword Beach, however, where the British infantry ran into a similar hail of fire from machine guns and mortars as at Omaha, 200 men had been killed or wounded in mere minutes, and the men were pinned down on the beach. Single 88mm guns blew the landing craft apart, and bleeding and burning men littered the beach. Several Churchill tanks were even knocked out. But even in all that chaos, the Allies made progress. They literally blew their way through and out of the German defenses. Explosive charges and tanks hammered the bunkers and casemates, and once one German strongpoint was overcome, the others were open for attack. So, like a house of cards, the German defenses fell apart. The men overran the German resistance nests, often not stopping to take any prisoners. They cracked the bunkers with high explosives, then cleared them with grenades and flamethrowers. The surviving Germans were in full retreat. By around 9 a.m., D-Day was looking pretty good for the Allies. So far, the Atlantic Wall seemed to be fully penetrated. The German beach defenses had been overrun and the major strongpoints overcome.
Yeah, but
from all sections,
unlike with Hollywood and whatnot, the fighting continued for, what was it, days or up to a couple weeks, I think?
Troops were pushing
like the
onward,
actual fight of D-Day lasted a lot longer than what Hollywood and games tend to portray.
Although the Wehrmacht had been pushed back, it was not beaten. In fact, new battle groups were formed, and the Panzer divisions and highly mobile Waffen-SS were making their way north. The gates to hell had been pushed open, and if the Allies wanted to free France from the Nazi stranglehold, they would have to make their way straight through the German lines.
Through the gates of hell, as we make our way to heaven, through the Nazi line.
Now, that's another good line that I didn't really think about.
Okay, those are big words, Joachim. The beginning of the Sabaton sound.
Yes.
Well, what do you mean?
Well,
yes,
in a way, it is not only that album, but that was the first song where we started incorporating, well, arranging the instruments that way, harmonizing the vocals the way we do, which is sort of like you would do in, I guess, Lutheran church hymns.
But whose idea was this? Was this your idea or a producer's idea, or a little bit of both?
In this case, I am to blame. Actually, I remember we recorded the songs,
he seems so chill. I love him.
Doing a demo back in 2003, I think, something like that.
Damn!
And I remember the look on everybody's face when I said this song would only have vocals as an intro, and they're like, what?
Oh, no.
Through the gates of hell, we only...
Dude, having only the vocals is such a power move, and it makes it hit that much harder, though.
You have that. And they're like, yeah, and then you have delay and reverb. Like, no, nothing. No. It's like that. That's
straight vocals is such a good choice.
Like a Lutheran choir in 1527. And did you say it with an accent, too, just like that? Just to really complete the picture.
Like a Luther.
No, I was thinking...
Like a Lutheran choir. Or I can't even do that accent.
I remember clearly when we were
I'm sorry for trying.
We recorded the song, and we had done the lead vocals, but we had no harmony vocals. And we had never done anything like this before. We'd always do we call it fotbollskör in Swedish, football choir.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
You get everybody to sing along.
And everybody does it once,
the same harmony, more or less in rhythm, in key, whatever.
Yeah.
If you get like 8 guys, it works.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I remember Pan was sitting behind the control desk because we were recording this at night. We were recording with Tommy Tekgren at the time in the Abyss studio. And Per was sitting behind the control desk. Me, Richard, and Oscar, the guitarists at the time, were standing behind the microphone. And I showed them, like, now we're going to sing "To the gates of hell as we make our way to heaven, to the Nazi lines, Primo Victoria." And
changing the key.
just like that. And
Or
like,
whatever.
That's weird. And then "To the gates of hell as we make our way to heaven, to the Nazi lines, Primo Victoria."
It's the 1/5.
And then we did copy for the last one, we copied my lead. And everybody thought, this is weird. You know?
Yeah, but it works.
Heavy metal song, you're gonna destroy this. You know, nobody.
Primo Victoria. This is like this is like you guys. This is like your song.
Yes, but at the
One of
time
the
they
most
didn't know
famous
that.
ones, actually. But I was so happy because I remember feeling it myself. I remember seeing Per, because once we sang them all, I told them just to remove all the other harmonies. So we only heard what we just sang. And then I told Per, okay, now just crank all harmonies up.
So yeah, they didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't know.
Cool.
And then when the choir first comes after the intro, Primo Victoria, I remember Per sort of like, I don't know if he did like that or he just pushed himself away from the mixing board doing like that.
Yeah.
And I remember myself for the first time, and this is quite an emotional moment for me actually. This is for me an extremely important moment in Sabaton history and in my life, because this is the first time I thought something was so good.
Being able to see your vision that you had, that no one else really got, and seeing it all come together and seeing them just, yes, this does work. That is that must have been such a cool feeling.
That we had done.
Okay.
That it was so good. It was, what do you call it? Not only good to be what we did. It was not only good enough for. It's good for these guys from Fallen.
Oh, yeah.
This was really good, and it was actually as good and better
this is
than I
good.
would have hoped for.
That is such a good thing. Yeah, see? Opening it no music is such a badass fucking thing. Oh, that looks like it'd be such a cool concert to go to.
So, I mean, Primo Victoria, which should be Prima Victoria because it's female, we know now, sorry. But it was sort of means
I'm gonna say
the beginning, or the first victory, or the beginning of the victory. And it's also
Prima
in a very
Victoria.
real way the beginning of Sabaton. Because I noticed how much I loved writing in that style. It felt like all of a sudden we had our own musical identity. We were not copying other bands. I mean, that thing that was new to us then is now, what do you say, a very, very, very big part of the Sabaton sound that we use today. But
at the time it wasn't. It was
that way of.
It was how they earned their sound.
Playing the same sometimes, swapping into octaves, doing different things. A lot of it, the use of synthesizers even.
And then now you guys are going to switch to a different kind of history on your next album, right?
Yes, pornographic history.
I mean, but you're not going to do any research on any porno sites because that would involve watching pornography.
That would be wrong. No.
That we don't.
We'll just make shit up as we go along.
See, that's great. See, that's what okay. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a new slogan for the Sabaton History channel. Sabaton History, making shit up as we go along.
I fucking love that. I use it.
See you next
no
time.
balls. This come out 2020. That's so baller. I love that.
All right, everyone, you know the drill. You click, 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 click. Get some subscriptions, check out Indie's other channels, become a Patreon. That's it. Get the fuck out of here.
Bye. This was really good. I had a lot of fun. I hope you guys did too. I always love learning about not just the history behind this, like the events that the song's about, but also hearing about the history behind how the song got to how it was and about the band is also just super cool. I really enjoy that. I hope you guys did too. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, like he said. And until next time, you guys take care of yourselves. See ya.